Here today with Mr. Blayse Martinez. I'm going to dive into some stuff, kind of his background. Couple things about Blayse, aside from having I'd say the coolest name in the office. That's your legal name, right, Blayse?
Yep. Full name, Blayse.
Blayse. That's sick. So 23 years old. Before this, and you've been here for what, 9 months?
Coming up
on 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
So about 9 months. Your background before this, no sales experience. You managed a tire shop, kind of like the family tire shop, right?
Yep.
Best month so far in the business, 53,000 in issue paid premium, which is like top 1% stuff. And then year to date, so we have the report through the second week of May. Year to date, you're at 146,000. So on track to do, right at about 400K. So
Yep.
Awesome. So let's dive in. This will be a 2-part video. So first, just want to dive into like what I guess my question is at 23, and you're married, you have a kid now.
I am.
What made you want to like get into sales?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I was super secure on a 6-figure salary for forever, right? And then just had a baby, bought a house, and decided to make the switch. But I think it really just goes back to like, and my parents probably wouldn't mind me saying this, but like when I was a kid, of course, they filed bankruptcy in 2008, right? So no security really. My dad's done tires his whole life. Super like secure for him because he knows everything about it, has a good like following. So he opened his own shop. We kind of got into that, and then of course I took it from there. Thought that was the end game, and then you kind of figure out like, I guess the town where we have the tire shop, right? There's 78 tire shops there, so extremely competitive. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Extremely competitive.
That's crazy.
So it's like, yeah, I mean,
and that's like, wait, just for reference, that's a town of like 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 people.
I'd say like 300,000.
300,000 and 78 tire shops.
Right. So like saturated market.
Huh.
Of course, we did like used stuff, and that kind of goes into where I kind of, I don't know. We'll kind of move back into that, but it's saturated market, right? So you kind of hit the top, and there's like no going past that, right? So
got it.
Could be secure. It's still a good income, but as inflation moves up, and I've been working since I was 13, so
yeah, because it's the family business.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And like when I started, it was like $6 an hour was minimum wage. That's what I was getting paid, and then now we're up to whatever 15 or something like that. So you make a good salary, but it catches up, right? It's not worth as much. So I kind of got down to the point where I just had a baby, bought a house. I was like, all right, well, we got to step outside and kind of figure out an end game and something to progress in, because work ethic has never been an issue for me.
Yeah.
I've always been down for 6 days a week, put all I have into everything. So I kind of moved me into wanting to get out of it and move into a different industry.
Got it. So you and your wife had just had the baby right before you started?
Yes.
Yeah, that's which is pretty ballsy, considering, anytime. I mean, I've only had one. Well, I haven't had any kids. My wife had a kid with me, right? So our daughter, anytime you have a kid, there's nothing that can prepare you for that. It's just your whole life is kind of more or less like flipped upside down. It's all stuff that you've never done before. There's really not a lot of experience like, that you can have prior to having a kid that preps you for it.
Right.
So to decide, I mean, were you nervous at all? Like, hey, new kid, I'm actually going to go ahead and just complete 360, 180, whatever, into something completely new. Like, were you nervous at all?
Well, I mean,
especially commission only.
Pretty decent, but dude, like, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but the same day I had an interview with you, yours was right before like a 6-figure salary job with commission. And
really?
And that was with it's like at a furniture store or something.
Okay.
Like managing it.
Okay.
So
they were going to pay you 6 figures salary?
Dude, that's
at a furniture store?
Yeah. Man. It was a GM position. It was crazy. I was
weird.
Like, well, weird. But anyways, interviewed with you, you kind of explained everything. I'm like, dude, like, one, I definitely don't want to work at a furniture store. It's miserable, right? And then 2, I'm like, security. And then I'm like, all right, unlimited potential if I keep working and kind of doing what I'm already doing.
Right.
And then, there's just kind of no ceiling. And that's kind of what really attracted me to the business. I was nervous, never done commission. and just got a big mortgage and a kid, biggest bills you'll ever
So
get.
you had just bought the house recently too?
Same month we had the baby. Yeah.
Man.
So
you're like super risk averse,
oh yeah,
basically.
yeah. But
Yeah.
and that's the
No,
thing, like
not risk averse.
tolerant.
I'm not the risk tolerant. There we go. I'm
Tolerant,
not the
yeah.
smartest, but yeah. So
Well,
risk is not. Where does that come from? Do you think?
the same kind of thing, dude. Like, I mean, having a business in that kind of saturated market, right? Like, you got to be better than everybody else. So,
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I mean, I've always kind of like enjoyed gambling and that kind of stuff. Not an addict, of course, but like never really minded to take risks and kind of know that could be a reward or
the upside. Yeah.
And then when you get into something like this, it's just like, all right, if I work hard, like the risk isn't there because if you just work, you're going to succeed, right?
Correct.
If you learn, you're coachable, then, and which I've never had an issue doing. Like if somebody knows more than me, I'll take the advice and then just run with it. So
yeah, and I agree to that. I mean, you were one of the fastest learners, but it's because you were one of the most coachable we've ever brought on. Yeah. Which I always say is the two requirements: come in and work hard, and then be coachable. And I know we talked about this. I remember on your first day, we do new agent onboarding at 9 a.m. I told you, hey, be here at 9, and you showed up at like 8. And I'm like, thanks for showing up early, which your commute, we haven't talked about that. Your commute is 2 hours. Yeah. And you're up here still 5 days a week, pretty much, right? Mm-hmm. So your commute, not only, did you have to drive 2 hours, you were here an hour early. I was like, hey, dude, it doesn't start till 9. We, don't have anything for you. Just hang out here and listen to some guys dial.
Well, yeah, dude. And that's like kind of the thing, like super grateful for my wife, right? Because like just had a baby, like she wasn't doing good. Yeah. Brand new baby keeping us up all night. And I'd still, get up 6 a.m. and then drive 2 hours away, get home at like 10 or 11 at night for my first like 3 months. So, she was super supportive in that. And that kind of led to me being able to fast track that learning curve. So,
there's and it's always the same stuff. Like there's the guys who are successful, and this goes to anything, like they sacrificed a lot early on. And I think, honestly, I think your upbringing has a big reason to do with it. Has a big part in, I guess, why you've been successful, because you were taught at a young age that like hard work is important, right?
Right. And that's the thing. Like we were well off, right, until the bankruptcy, and then of course, my parents did a great job getting back on their feet. Like we always had what we needed. But then we were taught young that like if we want something nice, we got to go work, right?
Go work for it.
And so like 13, I knew I wanted stuff. I was big into fishing, paintball, that kind of stuff. So I was like, all right, well, I need to get a job and to pay for these little things, which whatever at young age, it's not that bad. But then it came time for my first car, which I got given a broken car, and then I had to work to fix it, right? So just being instilled like, we're not going to pay for this. You work, you pay for it, and then at a young age, that kind of tees you up for success and knowing how to work, right?
Yeah, basically anything that's worth having, you have to work for it. Nothing's given, everything is earned.
Exactly.
Which I can relate to. Like growing up, I mean, it was the same. 2008. I guess I don't know about you. So in 2008, I'm 30 now. So in 2008, I would have been like 13 or 14. And my dad was in the home building industry down in Texas, and that just got rocked. Yeah. And as a kid, and you how old were you? Because
I would have been like 6.
So old enough to kind of know that something's up. But like I remember knowing like, oh man, things are tough, in and out of work, underpaid, like the market, like that's when I kind of decided, because I was old enough to kind of gauge like, hey, in the next 10 years, I'm going to enter the workforce. I got to do something different. So that's like around the time that I decided that I was not going to pursue like a normal 9-to-5 superintendent, like construction type job. Like I was going to be in control of my income because of that. Now, as I've gotten older, I guess at the time as a teenager, you don't really realize how bad it was. But I've talked to dozens of guys that are now in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s that all have the same story. Like 2008 was rough, right? And so it's wild though, because when you see, especially your parents, I mean, we can relate this way, where you see your parents struggle through something and then overcome it and push through because they worked hard. I think that's very undervalued with us now. And like, we should be super appreciative to our parents for showing us like, hey, like you get knocked down, just get right back up. Like you're going to fail. You have to go through it.
Yeah.
Cause even me, like growing up, grandparents had a farm, North Texas, like summers were spent like working on the farm, and it wasn't really like a choice. It
Right.
was like, hey, we're going to the farm. Come on.
Yeah.
Right. And then of
Yeah.
course, when you work hard, I think, my parents and grandparents did a good job of like, hey, when you do work hard, you earn, right? So you get paid for it.
Right.
And I think that's that correlation. So really when you decided to do this, even though you could have gotten the safe route with the furniture store, you were like, well, dude, if I just work hard, like the upside, I'll take advantage of the upside because I'm willing to work hard. And so how long did you run that schedule? So you said like your first 3 months you were basically here by 8, leaving here by 8. So basically leaving your house around 6 a.m., getting home around 10 p.m. How long did you run that schedule for?
Yeah, that was like at least the first 90 days.
So the first 3
And
months.
realistically, like I didn't even take, like, just recent that, Sean Mike told me to kind of dial back from driving so much.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I've dialed back and kind of done some more, less driving, right?
Yeah.
To sell more. So,
Yeah.
but, ultimately, like I knew that I needed to be around you. Like, there's no way I would have been able to excel quick and then, without being coached by you, right? So
Yeah.
I had to come up, ask questions every day. And I think I was one of the only ones who'd ask. I mean, I probably asked you some dumb questions, but every day I think I asked a question.
Oh yeah.
And tried to stay around you. So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the big thing is like anybody who's doing better than me, I was around them.
Mm-hmm.
I was coached by them, even just listening to them. And then eventually I picked up exactly what they did, implemented it myself. And then from there it just worked. So,
Yeah. So you were, I think, one of the first to really take that by the horns, where we're like, hey, you can fast track your skill set to success by putting in more time and effort. So like our standard was, or still is, $300-400 a day. That's kind of bare minimum. And you were one of the guys early on that instead of just doing $300-400 in a day, you were doing 900, 1,000 some days. And I think you have the record still, $1,100 in a day in our office.
yeah.
And so that if you're doing 3 times the work, instead of going through a 90-day learning curve, your learning curve was really only like a month.
Yeah, because I think my second month, like writing through my own, what did I do? Like 28. So
Yeah.
doing no
Yeah.
sales, like sucking bad,
Yeah.
fumbling. I mean, I probably blew so many deals during that
Yeah.
time, but it's just like put in the extra work. I didn't want to take 90 days, so I just worked hard.
Yeah. Didn't want it to, and you probably couldn't afford for it to take 90 days because new house, new baby, like this, and all the time that you're committing to it, like 6 to 10 p.m. every day,
Yeah.
like 6 days a week, like
Yeah.
you couldn't, it would have been a disservice to your wife and kid if you were like kind of half-assing it when you're at work. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm like a really big all in or all out because I
Yeah.
think that there's no going half into anything, right?
No.
It's not going to last if you do, whether
Right.
it's a regular job or even, sales, especially, right? You can't, I mean, I just feel like it's a lot of kind of disciplining yourself,
Yeah.
going all in. And then, like you told me from the start, it's either time or money, right? So I knew I didn't have the money. I just had to put in a lot of time and then it would pay off. So,
And then what would you say like obviously you weren't afraid of the work. What would you say the hardest adjustment or hardest part was? Like what were you bad at the beginning that,
I think just like talking to people in general. I mean, of course, like, yeah, I sold tires, whatever. That's like really more of it's like a necessity, right? Like
Right.
people have to have a tire. You can't drive on the road. Everybody drives. So
Yeah.
I think coming in and actually talking to people, I was always a shy person.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't like talking to anybody. And it's funny, like I told my wife, I'm like, this is exactly where my personality changes. Like you're not gonna recognize me when I come back. And then, dude, I came in here just like confident, ready to just rip. And then, that's like wasn't my personality, but I knew like if I'm gonna do a job talking to people, I have to talk to people. So
you kind of transformed into that.
Yeah, because I've just always been a reserved person, didn't really care to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot easier over the phone too, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to go meet these people. I mean, you'll probably never talk to them again. It's just like get it done, take them through the process, and then that's it. So,
yeah. And I've always said this, your experience at the tire shop is actually the perfect fit for this because, we get, for those that may not know, we buy leads. So we buy, I shouldn't say we buy people. We buy leads so that we can talk to people all day that want our product. So we don't do any cold calling. We don't have to call family and friends to sell policies. Like we just buy the leads and we call them and they want our product, and it's just our job to take their order. And I would argue, because sometimes people with sales experience come in and they try to sell the product and it just doesn't work. Whereas your approach, your personality has always been like, Blayse from the tire shop, like, let me, what do you need? Let me help you. Like, don't be weird. Like, you're just very blunt and straight to the point with them of like, hey, obviously you want life insurance, and we'll dive into your script on the next video, but hey, you want life insurance, I'm your guy. What's the goal here? Right? It's just very casual, neutral. You're not too high, too low. It's just, hey man, let's just get this knocked out.
Right. And I think that's like, I had a little advantage, like, everybody in our town, right, they would shop every single tire shop. Like, it's super competitive, right? You're gonna see whoever has the cheapest stuff. And so, like, coming into it, whether they've talked to another agent, other agents haven't sold them, I think that was really easy for me. I think there's like a psychological thing that you kind of learn. And when it comes to like tires, like we did new and used tires, right? So new tires are a lot more expensive, but we made the profit on the used tires because we pay less. And then
got it.
You know what I mean? So when it came to down selling, like I just thought that was so easy because you basically make more money by not upselling people and being a salesman, right? Because you have good business, clean business. And so I think that was like a really easy thing for me to kind of adjust to. And then of course, I guess, like, I don't know, I just feel like listening to people kind of worry about price, my whole career, that's the only thing I've done for work. I think there's just like a psychological thing where I could tell what they're going to say next. And it's weird, like as soon as before somebody says they're going to think about it, I can already hear it in their tone it's coming. So I think that's where it really made it easy for me to adjust, is just kind of knowing that it's coming. Even if it doesn't, then it's just even easier. So I think that was great for me.
I've never thought of it that way, because you're already dealing with people that were shopping for the best price, which in insurance they want to get the best price, and then you got people all the time that just want to think about it. They don't want to overspend on tires, so you got to convince them, hey, I know this is not maybe the one you wanted, but it fits your budget, let's just do this, right? So interesting. Okay, so and then with I guess the biggest adjustment was just learning how to talk to people a little bit more. How did you get more comfortable with doing that? Or was it just hey, I have to do it, so I'm just going to do it? Or
just doing the reps. I mean, like, I came in, I think even my first day I did like 500-600 dials. And I probably got, cussed at, like, told to just, I basically ate dirt my first day.
What'd you think driving home after that first day?
I was like, dude, like, this was terrible. I'm like, there's no way I'm sitting here like talking to people that are just cussing me out all day. I'm like, this is like crazy. And then came back the next day. I think it was like my second or third day and sold one, right?
Yeah. I do remember. I was like, you were quick off the start because you did so much activity.
And so I was like, all right, well, this makes more sense. Like 300-400 people said no, but then one person said yes, and then like, I just made $1,000.
So
I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then just went through the ringer, right? Like, I mean, I probably sounded stupid. I should go back and look if I have call recordings from that.
Good.
I bet I sound terrible. I didn't really know what I was doing, but at the end of the day, it was just like reps, right? Like, the more people that told me no, it just made it easier when somebody was just down to talk, right? And so you just talk to them, and then it's easy, right?
So is that why you were willing to? So after you made that realization, after like the first couple of days, is that why you were willing to do so many dials? Because in your mind, like, did you put 2 and 2 together where you're like, okay, well, 400 people told me no, one person told me yes, and I made it $1,000. So if I can just do one of those a day, I'll be fine.
Exactly.
Okay, so you made that.
There was the correlation, but then the other, like, everybody comes in, right? They make a lot of dials, they get told no, and you're like, all right, these leads suck. And I was the same way, but then at some point you realize that every lead's the same, right? Like, everybody filled it out, everybody wants it. Some people are just like that. So I knew that if the more people I talked to, the more dials I made. And eventually when somebody says yes, like, and then I'd break it down even more. So like, I made $1,000 from this one deal, I just made $100 an hour, right? So, and then it gets crazy when you start doing it that way. So, especially coming from like a salary or like, an hourly job or whatever.
Then you just know, like, okay, if I do X, I'll receive Y. And then you get better. Like, that's the thing, is then your skill gets better. Now you're closing instead of just one a day, you're closing 2, 3, 4 a day. Like, and you've closed, what's your record day?
I think like
6, 7, 8?
7 or 8, I think.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like
So
that.
you've had these crazy days, and
Right.
and obviously you're really good now, but no, that's interesting perspective. So everyone, and I can relate too, like in the beginning, like, ooh, yeah, this, and I had the experience on door to door. So I was already used to
Right.
the rejection, but even me, I was like, man, these calls, ugh, people are, and I was working
Yeah.
horrible leads. Like, man, none of these people applied for insurance. They were all looking for like a plumber, and I'm not a plumber. So
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
go, everyone I think goes through that, and then you make that realization, like, okay, there is some sucky parts, but then the highs where you do make that sale, and then you get paid in 2 days. Like, what was your, when you had a direct deposit, like, what was your take there? Was it just like, oh, okay, yeah, it is real?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, you come into something new and then you're like, well, I'm doing the work, not getting like it's commission only, and then once you see your first paycheck, it's like, wow, okay, like I just made more than I made, in a week, in a day, so
Yeah.
or whatever, and then
Whatever. Yeah.
and then it just scales from there. Like, I mean, this year I've made more than well over my whole year's salary. Right,
That's
we're not
awesome.
even halfway through the year yet.
Yeah.
So, but
That's sick.
yeah, I think like the big thing is just like hitting people so many times, being told so many no's. Like as soon as somebody's ready to talk to you, it's just easy to sell. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's what I found out early is the more reps I did, the more times I heard no, that it was just super seamless and easy when somebody finally was down to talk. So
Yeah.
I,
It's like fishing, dude.
yeah,
You just
exactly.
sit there
Yeah.
all day doing nothing.
Yep.
Eventually your line gets pulled, and then it's
Right.
just seaweed, and then you throw it back in, and then
Exactly. So
that's good.
yeah.
That's good perspective, because obviously you're doing well now, but it's always cool to kind of rewind a little bit and hear, like, oh, this was going through your head. Now after that first week of like, ooh, this is like kind of tough. Um, has there been any other moments or instances or weeks that you've had where like, ooh, man, this is like kicking my ass. I don't know if I should.
Yeah, I mean, it was a roller coaster my first 3 months. Like I'd
Yeah.
go, I don't know. First week, I kind of got a taste, and I'm like, all right, it's real. And then second week, I think I sold nothing. I'm like, well, maybe I should just go find like, something
Mm,
legit, or like something that's a salary again,
yeah.
right? Because that's what I know is
Comfortable. Yep.
comfortable. But then like I just kept reminding myself that there's a reason why I took the job, right?
Yeah.
Like I knew
Yeah.
that at some point it would work.
Yeah.
And then as soon as like I got in that headspace, I'd sell a deal the next day. So then it just brings you back up
Yeah.
and kind of just, I mean, it's a full roller coaster in sales, regardless
Yeah.
of where you go. And then, at some point it just gets crazy. And then at the point I'm at now, it's like, I'm thankful that I didn't quit. And then
Yeah.
I had like people, like ask advice, see what I'm doing wrong, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So, and then I think it just like taking the advice, implementing it. I know you always told me in training is like, I hear something and then I'm using it on the next call. Like
Yep.
that's exactly what I would do. And then I'm like, wow, like that just works.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
weird, right?
it like, whoa, it actually does work.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good perspective, because like I know, oftentimes if you look at like our Instagram and you talk to people that have been doing this a while, it's all like highlights.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, the best people at this job, and really sales in general, we actually all go through the same amount of rejection. We all go through the same bad leads. We all get no showed, no sale, whatever. The guys and girls who do really well, they just handle it differently. Like they're just like even keeled, on to the next, just part of the job.
Right.
And if you can stay, which you're really good at, if you can just stay level, you just know like, hey, you're going to have a couple bad days, you're going to have a couple bad weeks. But if you're working and doing the activity, you have a bad week, maybe you have 2 bad weeks, it's really difficult to have a bad month, right? If you just keep showing up and putting in the work. So,
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's the big thing too, is like the environment that you've created is like you come in and it's not like, all right, like I'm the head of the office. Look, like I made 700 grand last year, right? It's more of like, dude, when I started, I was horrible.
yeah,
And then
Yeah.
Jesse, like I started, I sucked.
yeah,
And then it's Jesse's cool with you telling him that he sucked. I'm like, dude, like, so there's no like,
everyone sucks.
it's not like, all right, I'm better than you in this
No.
environment. So it's just super easy. And then you're like, well, is it real? And then you're like, all right, well, look at my deposits, right? Like
Yeah.
100 grand last month. I'm like, dude, and then I'm like, how long have you done this? You said what? You were 3 years in?
Yeah, about
like
3
that?
years. Yeah,
Okay. So then I'm like, dude, like, how did he make in a month what I made in a year?
yeah,
and only have been doing this for 3 years, right? So
yeah, I'm just ahead of you by a couple years.
right. So I'm like, dude, and not to be mean, but you're not special.
Correct.
So I'm like,
correct.
all right.
Yeah,
So it's super possible. And then like
totally.
you just hit the mark where it just starts happening.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that. So
yeah, I always use the analogy. It's like, you know, in an airplane, right? You take off. It's always like kind of wobbly on your way up, and then eventually the pilot gets to cruise control or whatever they call it, where it's just you don't even realize like you're flying. It's just steady,
right.
And then of course there's going to be turbulence along the way, like winds, storms, whatever. There's turbulence, and then you know eventually you land. But yeah, the hardest part, and where guys and girls fall off in this and any sales, because it was the same in door to door, maybe a little quicker because doors can be a little more brutal. People quit on the, you know, as they're climbing, right? People quit.
Yeah, exactly.
And oftentimes, like I've always thought, you know, in my mind, like, okay, if you can change your mindset to like, man, this week sucked, and just like, I don't know if I should do this. This week sucked. The leads are bad, da da da. If you can flip that to, oh man, this week sucked, and I'm pumped for next week because it's going to be an absolute banger. Like if you can switch the mindset to that, or new people can, that's where it changes. Because if you're consistent with your activity and you're consistent with your inputs, like, you know, the outputs will eventually come. It's the mindset though that kills people, because they have one bad week, 2 bad weeks, and they're like, man, this isn't for me. If they would have just waited a week and kept doing the same activity, they would have popped off.
Yeah, and I was super guilty of that. Like I'd have a bad week and then I'd drop dials and I'm like, holy, like, why am I sucking so bad? Why am I not making anything? And then I'm like kind of like auditing myself, right? I'm like, whoa, like I'm doing 300-400 dials and not selling it. Like I know what the problem is.
Right.
And then that's like, as having mentors, that kind of stuff, you're like, all right, well, what am I doing wrong? Like, dude, like you showed up late today and then like you're doing 300 dials, like just increasing, then it'll work. And that's what you do, and then you know it just works. So
which was that hard for, like, because I know I say that a lot, like, dude, just keep dialing. Was that hard for you at first? Like, okay, yeah, but what's the secret? Like,
yeah, I always
did you ever think that?
Dude, I thought you had some kind of secret sauce the whole time. I'm like, dude, he's got the prime leads. Like these people are calling him, and then I was like, dude, it's And then now, like looking back, like, and with how much I'm selling, it's just like, yeah, that was not the case. I just was bad. So
yeah.
And it's like, you'll go through the mental kind of stuff, but like if you just keep pushing through that and just, you know, understand that nobody's here to see you lose. Like we all want to see each other win. That, you know, at some point it'll click as long as you
don't quit.
Implement.
Yeah.
Don't quit.
Implement and don't quit. Yep. That's it. No, that's been great. So I guess as we wrap up this one, is there someone who might be considering working in insurance or with us? If they do work in insurance, I'm biased, but I think they should work with us.
Yeah.
What is your maybe 1 or 2 piece of advice that they should go into?
I think just go above and beyond, you know, just do the work, right? Like don't come in. It's not, you can do it part-time and make good money, but I think like if you really want to make something for yourself, not work the rest of your life, I think just work hard.
Yeah.
Go above and beyond, work harder than everybody else.
Yeah.
And then there's no way you don't succeed, I think.
Yep.
Especially, you don't even need any experience, dude. No education, no sales. Like,
work harder than everybody else.
Work hard.
Yeah. Yep. It's awesome. Well, appreciate it, dude.
Sweet.